And we're on. Welcome to another episode of Coaching Chats with Marina and Caroline.
I'm Marina Baranowski of the Coaching Marina.
And I'm Caroline Day from Safe Day to Change. I'm so excited to be here with you again.
Again, very exciting. Today we have an incredible topic.
What is it?
It is time and aging.
Oh, woo.
This is a topic near and dear, to my heart. Obviously, as humans, we have a timeline. We are only here for a very short period of time. But however, most people take aging and time as a pressure, something that
Mhm.
affects them so very deeply. And it's very much on an individual basis. Some of my clients, when they come to me, they are affected by it. So let's start off, if you will, talking about the relationship between time and aging.
Okay, go ahead.
The perception of time changes really as we age, right? So for example, when we were children, Christmas, Christmas never showed up quickly. We always like the beginning of December would come and we were like, it's never going to be Christmas Day. And this time stretched so much. Or the summertime came and just the time felt like forever in these endless summers. um, that begins to change as you get older and as your responsibilities come into play, and you start thinking of it very differently. um, you at that point become taught, I guess, what you should be doing at certain points in your life. And this more of a pressure gets put on you to do certain things. And that could be societal, it could be cultural, it could be, many things teaching you what you should be doing right now at these ages. Um, have you ever felt like that pressure?
I mean, I don't know if I felt the pressure. I never really thought about time that way. I think I talked about it in the last episode a little bit, how I grew up with people, not just my mother, but also my grandmother, thinking that you hit 40 and your life is over. That was my upbringing, right? Was you turn 40, everything goes bad, and it's a really bad timing, and you're not as young as you were before. And then there's all of these like perception of timing, like you were saying, right? As time changed for them, their perception of time and available time, more specifically, have changed. And I think because I've heard it so many times, it just didn't resonate with me when I heard it. For me, it was like, well, I don't know about that. And the friends that are very close to me, they actually saw me celebrating age every single year. And I remember saying, I can't wait to be 40. And they're like, you're crazy. And I'm like, I can't wait to be 40. I feel like 40 is like when you have the opportunity to start over, like you have everything already, like you're accomplished, you've done the school, you've done everything, and now it's your chance to do you. And long and behold, like I turned 40 and it was like this amazing time for me. And so I have a very different time, perception of time. But I think you're right. I think a lot of people, and now that you mentioned, Dr. Gaber Mate, he actually explains about timing so well. And he says, like the idea of, when kids are kids, right? Like when you're a kid, you don't have this idea of time.
No.
Time is eternal. They live in the moment. Kids live in the moment. And I think that's why things like Christmas and Hanukkah, Thanksgiving, they feel like it's going to take forever to get there. Dr. Mate even comes to say, like you're going to have dinner in 5 minutes. they don't know what 5 minutes, what is 5 minutes, how long really 5 minutes is. And so for them, dinner is just taking forever, because they don't know what 5 minutes is about. And so they don't have an idea of timing. And that's when you develop it. Like you start to develop as you grow, you start developing an idea of timing and not being late, and then there's, like you said, society starts to talk to you about, when is the right time to do certain things, when you're too old to be going to the park. Now you're too young to be around, the family conversations, but you're too young to do this, but then you're too old to do that. And then kids starts to
Yeah.
go, wait, I'm too old to do this, but I'm too young to do that. Like, well, which is it?
Right.
Like you're too young to be doing this, but you're too old to, too young to drive, and so
Yes.
like you said, like I think society starts putting these timing around people's living or idea of living. And I think that's why it changes. But since you talk so much about it with your clients, what do you think like is the biggest issue that clients bring to you when it comes to timing and the issue that they have with their perception of timing?
Generally, it's age. It is not understanding that there's still, it's almost like it's almost over.
Mm,
This whole pressure and feeling of, it's almost over. So what am I going to do different, from
Give
here
me an
on out?
example. So, like, how old is a client of yours, and what is specifically they come and say it's over or it's too late?
Typically between 40 and 60, but let's just go right in the middle at 50, right?
Hmm.
There's a lot that goes on during 50, and I was saying in the previous, it's in your body, it's in your mind, it's you carry this age around with you as if it is a badge, and that you have to act a certain way and be a certain way. You can't be childish anymore. You're too old to do this, or this becomes such a massive pressure when you, from a very natural, meaning you, the client, is in a very natural state, is um, fun and wants to do what we would deem as childish things.
Mm.
You start feeling weird about yourself that you actually want to do these things. So, what they'll do is they'll come to me and we'll start reframing what that is for them. What is age to them? Are you considering this on a chronological basis, or are you looking at this from a more emotional or spiritual age? You know,
Okay, so let's go back really quick because you
yeah.
said they want to do things that are fun, but that, maybe society doesn't accept it as okay to be doing because you're too old to be doing. So give me an
Right.
example of that. What would be fun? You're talking about like dancing, going out. What
Yeah.
is it?
I mean, we could take that. We could take dancing. We could take starting running. Let's say someone is like, I really enjoy running, but I can't do a marathon because I'm too old, or I don't want to hurt my body, or just these limiting, constraints that you put around age, but it's a passion, something that this person wants to do. How do you grow into that? Obviously, this is something that is inspiring growth. You want to run? Then there's steps that we can take in order for you to do that. There's no age restriction on this, or um, how about going to like one of those bounce house places,
Mm-hmm.
where, you just want to get on trampoline and you just want to jump around. I'm too old to do that. No, you're not. You're not too old to do that. Why not get on a trampoline? If it brings you joy and it's something that, you want to have that experience, go ahead and do it. There is no age restriction on fun.
I
And
see.
this is in joy, really. So
Mm,
this is what people and this is just like we're talking about little minute things. Um, it could, go into I'm too old to have a different relationship with my family. I'm too old to change anything within the dynamics with my children. I'm too whatever it is that you're putting this framing around, um, we break free of that. There's no use for that framing because age is not something that should be a restriction,
mhm.
in my
Well,
opinion.
it's very much is for them, right? In their mind, or, they know
Right.
their bodies. They don't want to get injured. They don't want to get, hurt, like you said earlier. So what are some of the things that you work with them to start this process of debunking the idea of, I'm too old for
We
whatever it
start
is?
we start with perspective.
Mhm.
We start with um, changing the way that they view aging in itself, just from a concept of aging and also the concept of time, because time is a very limiting thing. I don't have enough time. I hear that a lot. I don't have enough
Mm,
time. I don't have enough time to do all the things that I want to do. And we start with practicing presence. We start with um, mindfulness, because if we're always thinking that there either is not enough time, then there never will be. So if you start reframing and changing that around and using time as a connection point, where this is something that you're moving with in conjunction with, not as a blockage.
I love that. Yeah, it's true. Um, I love what you said about, if you think that there is no time, then never will be. So how do you create time for them? How do you change, or how do you assist them with changing their perspective that there may be time?
It's mindfulness. It's in the presence. We're not guaranteed time. We're not guaranteed tomorrow, but being grateful for the time that we do have in the present and in the day. And once we start working with that appreciation first, it opens up the door for tomorrow. It opens up the door for being, or even thinking about doing things outside of your realm. Once you are grounded in the present, then you can move forward with a different outlook on it. So we start with mindful practices. We start with grounding practices, which is like, and it could be whatever that client wants. And again, this is a very individual thing. So it could be about journaling, it could be about meditation, it could be spending time with nature. You need those moments to just ground yourself for a second and say, I'm grateful for what I have at this particular moment. Now, what do I want for my future? The future is only, you know, what I want it to be, not what I'm being told it should be,
Mhm.
and that when you're talking about aging in relation to this, um, there are many people who have done incredible things later in life, right? You have um, businesses being started in their 50s, that become uber successful, in their 60s and 70s. And, we are at a point now, especially with the medical field being what it is, that we will probably live a little longer than our predecessors. And it shouldn't be a constraint. It shouldn't be something. So, what we'll do is consider these goals. Whatever that goal is, the client comes to me, we will start working on small actions in order to get you to that goal.
Yeah, I love that. The reason why I asked is because, not necessarily aging, but my clients, when they come to me, it's another thing that they're blocked by, right? So they're afraid of doing something. And similar to aging, right? They have a perception that is preventing them from moving forward, from going for a goal or a desire, right? And so the first thing that I do with them is I ask them to define what that desire is. And so for you, it would be something like, I want to run. And then right after, I ask them to actually write down the narratives that will come to mind. And those narratives sometimes is, if you do decide to run, what do you think your partner will say?
Yeah.
And don't judge, just what do you think? And maybe the answer will be like, don't you think you're too old to start running? What are your kids going to say? Dad, you're not going to run. You're going to injure your hip. We don't have money for surgery at this point. You're not going to do that. What do you think your cousins are going to say? What do you think your parents are going to say? And so I normally have them on the narratives that he imagines would happen if they were to go for their dream. And the reason why I do that is because sometimes we have all of these ideas, right? Like, this is what I think the neighbors would say. This is what I think my parents would say, my kids would say, my spouse would say. Do you think you would have any support? Oh, absolutely not. Like, I'm at this age where, they just want me to cook more, and be present for the grandchildren, you know. And
Yeah.
so the reason why I have them write it down is because the next step is now to challenge that,
Yeah.
right? Maybe it's right. Maybe actually that's really what you're going to hear. But the truth is, you are anticipating this to happen. It hasn't happened. And that's what fear is about, right?
Right.
Fear is about an anticipation of something that may happen or that you think will happen, right? And so that's what people prevent. People don't want to hear, you don't want to do it, you're too old, or sometimes nobody's going to say any of that. It's really just you anticipating that they will say that.
Yeah.
But maybe you're going to turn into your spouse and they're going to be like, that's amazing. What do you need in order to start? But they don't know, because in their mind, you're saying, oh, no, you're not starting that. Right. So one or the other, whatever it is. Right. And that's where I go, okay, let's challenge that. Would they really say that? And if the answer is yes, no, 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 they will say that. They already said that today. Then you will be like, how would you feel
Yeah.
about that? Like, because sometimes also what we think the consequences are going to be is also fabricated in our mind. The truth is, sometimes most times, we're not going to die, even if that were to happen. Right. And so overcoming that fear of that happening, oh, but I can lose my job. Okay, what would that really look like if you lost your job because you're going to do this? you know, and
Yeah.
you anticipate the worst, right? Like, people have the idea sometimes to anticipate the worst. They go into the worst possibility. And that's why you have to like really challenge them, right? So what do you think about that?
I love everything you just said. So, I mean, yes, challenging them to think about it in a very different way. There is this pressure, and again, I use the word pressure because that's the overwhelming thing, that you think that your loved ones, like you said, your loved ones, the people around you are going to not agree with what it is that you're doing, think badly about you. That's the key. It's not even like, be supportive. Like, they will judge you for wanting to do something different. And within that judgment, you go, hey, I don't want to do that because, then that's going to be a negative energy going towards me that I don't want to have. I don't want to have to process that. So that's why there's a lot of times when even for myself, I start something, and this is again years ago, I would start something and I would get a comment from whether it be a family member or, and I would go, yeah, I guess I'm not going to do that anymore, because I'm not being supported in what I'm doing. Because
Mhm.
that's what we really want ultimately. We want the support from our loved ones around us. And even if it isn't, a physical support, just an emotional support to say, I'm here for you, whatever you need, and for the most part, people don't get that. When it comes to aging, when it comes to time in itself, aging is not an easy thing to go through because it is on a very, very individual basis, right? And that's where the judgment comes in too, because some of us age more rapidly than others. Some of us, you know, don't look like ourselves anymore. So when we look ourselves in the mirror, that is a hard thing to have to reconcile during that time. So aging and the time piece of it is I don't have enough time to fix all this. Like this is,
Mhm.
I have a lot going on right now. And I want to learn how to be accepting of who I am right now. If I can't
That's
love
so
my
good. Like, wait, 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 wait. You're talking about so many good things,
okay.
like because you talked about three different topics in just one section. So
Yes.
that's like, let's digest what you said because it was so good. The first thing you said was really about judgment.
Yeah.
When you were a child, right? When you were making these decisions, you would ask for support. And I want to go as far to say, you're asking for permission. I know we don't know that at the time, but it's almost like you're asking for permission to do it. And as soon as you are judged, you're meet with judgment,
Yeah.
it's almost like I don't have permission to do it. I'm going to talk about this Saturday. I'm going to be speaking at an event in California here in Alameda, hosted by Empowered by Women called the Rise and Empower, a woman's world summit. And it's really cool because I'm going to talk about this, right? So women think that they need permission to go for it. And when they ask somebody, hey, what do you think about me doing this? And they go, oh, it's gonna, I don't think so because X, Y, and Z, then that becomes your justification. I didn't do it because somebody said it would happen as X, Y, and Z, so I'm not going to go for it. So it's really, you're asking permission to do it. And
Wow.
when you're met with no, like you're not, or with judgment, you're going to accept that judgment. But the truth is, we need to grant ourselves permission to do
Beautiful
things.
framing. Beautiful.
So
Yes.
I love that you said that because it's true, right? Like we meet with judgment, but we really want acceptance. We want somebody to give us permission to start,
Yeah.
when really the permission comes from within. So thank you so much for saying that. And then you went on to talk about something so juicy, which is the transformations on ourselves when people look, because I do remember also my mom talking about this about looking in the mirror and are recognizing the young woman that they used to be, right? Like that you wake up and it's already changed. And it's like you have like, how do you reconcile? You said. So can you go a little before we move forward? Because this
Yeah.
was so juicy. Thank you for
Yeah,
mentioning.
no problem.
Like what is that like, for women and what do you think that perspective actually, what's the consequence of that perspective?
When you are, I'll use my own example, okay? When I was 40, I didn't see very many differences in myself. Not because, okay, I wasn't looking. How about that? I wasn't looking. And when I saw my first gray hair, I was like, dink. I pulled it right out. I was like, I'm not going to handle this, right? And
Who
then,
has
but when you start aging faster and as the years pile on and you start becoming more aware that you're not, the college cheerleader anymore. You're not, you don't have the same, body, you don't have the same, but in your core, like I always knew in my core, I was the same.
Mm,
And you have to have and process, almost grieve the old outside version of you and become more and more accepting of who you are on the outside. And it really is, and I firmly, embody this. Um, I am who I am. My spirit, my soul is who I am. The outside version is just a vehicle. It's just my vehicle in this lifetime, to go through this life. So I'm
mm,
going to give myself grace and I'm going to love on myself the way I feel I should, especially in this age. When I was younger, when I had, young children, I wasn't giving myself enough attention.
okay.
And it shows now. My ignoring of myself now comes out as I'm older, and I can say, all right, it's okay. You did what you sacrificed, what you needed to in order to make sure that you felt good about that part. Now you're in this stage of life and loving on yourself and being accepting of everything that all the scars and the battle scars that you've got on you are good things. It shows that you're alive.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
here.
you're going much faster than my brain can pick
Oh,
up, to
sorry.
be honest.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's beautiful. I think it's because it's so loaded with wisdom. I'm like, wait.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
like running after this train track, like, hold
Okay.
on. So you said something beautiful because, and I'm sorry I didn't stop you, but because your train is so beautiful, I'm like, keep going, but wait. Um, so one thing that you said was, I still feel the same person as I was, but your image is not the same. Do
Right.
you think that that's the hardest part is because inside you feel like it's the same young soul, it's the
Yes.
same person that was there all along, but then this image is almost like it doesn't match anymore what
Yeah.
I thought my young soul is. Do you think that that's the hardest part about it?
For me, it's the hardest part about it. I am very emotionally and spiritually, chronologically, not my age. And I've known that for some time. But, and sometimes when I say how old I am, people are like, really? Like, really? Is
Same.
that real? I'm like, that's not
Oh,
no, it's real. It's very real. But the thought being is like my energy and what I try to bring forth is the real version of me, not
mm,
not what my outside version. Because if you live very much in your physical senses, it can change how you present to people. So, for example, if you are very self-conscious about your wrinkles or your weight or, just being when you're in front of other people, that energy comes through and people are less likely to embrace you because they
mm.
feel that apprehension.
Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Okay. There's many examples. One, for example, is if you are not grounded in yourself, when you're not really feeling good about yourself, um, and it could be about how you look or how you feel, or just um, you have like a resting face that shows the emotion that you're generally feeling. Like when I have a habit when I'm out, sometimes I watch people, and there are people that walk around and they have like kind of like a, smirk on their face, and they're just walking around, they're not talking to anybody. And you can tell, someone is having a good day, or if someone is, has a scowl or, um, a very sad expression, you can tell, at least I could tell, that they're really not feeling very good at that particular moment. So you don't necessarily need to convey it in a way that is verbal. Your energy comes through sometimes. And that's what I mean by like, if you are aware of how you feel, in your world, in your life, when you're aware of just your peace and acceptance of who you are, you're always in a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. I'm always going to be to the day I die. I'm going to be a work in progress. Um, but being accepting of where you are at this moment comes through.
Hmm. So accepting how? Like accept you're not being accepted by others or by yourself. What is the perception there? Because, Jay Shetty actually talks about this, right?
Yeah.
It's not what I think you think, it's what I think you think. Like, or something like that. It's not what
Yeah,
I
it's all
think, it's what you think. It's
right.
what I think you think about me.
Right. Yeah.
Right? He says that. So talk to me about that. Like, how is that a good or a bad thing? Like, how does that affect people when, they have this perception that they're being judged, maybe?
Yeah. Right. Um, you have to get to a point for yourself. And again, this comes from a very individual level. You got to get to yourself to a point where you don't care about what other people's opinions are,
Hmm.
and that you have enough love and enough acceptance of yourself that everyone can have their opinions and it not affect you in that way. And
Mm.
I'm not saying that happens overnight because, we grow up like this, but being aware and cognizant of every single time that you are in a space where you feel judged, that you have to just go and turn in within and say, I like me. You know, I don't need anyone else to. Of course, it's lovely, when everyone else likes you, but it is not needed in this life to be liked. If you are living you and in your own space and doing the things that give you joy and that are happiness that comes through, it will radiate like like an auric field. It will radiate to others, that you are in a good space. And that
Yeah.
affects everyone else in the same way that if someone's in a bad mood, that it affects everyone else. So
Mm.
there's a lot here, and there's a lot that we can go into with this, but a lot of this comes with this acceptance, acceptance of age, acceptance of time, acceptance of, that we only have a very short period of time here on this in this lifetime, and that each day we need to be grateful and we need to, and when I mean be grateful, I mean just have love for something and bring that in and just have that acceptance. It's the small things. It's not the big things. It's more the small things that you find about yourself, um, that makes this whole thing tolerable,
Yeah, no, you talked about so many things. When you said, "Oh, we can go deep," and I said, "Yeah, there's so much to unpack there,"
So
right?
much to unpack. Yeah.
Because you talked about so many things about people preoccupied
Yeah.
or when they're in a conversation thinking if they are being accepted or not.
Right.
for whatever reason, their age, the way they look, right? That sounds exhausting.
Very.
It must be exhausting,
Yeah.
right? To be thinking about what other people are thinking about you or having an opinion. I think, I would just have a different perspective if I may. Not that I don't care, but I think if people um, are really, it's again, it's just about perspective, right? If people have this love in their heart and they're not thinking about anything of that kind, it shows,
Yeah.
like you said, right? If somebody goes in not thinking somebody may like me, somebody need to like me, I want everybody to like me, and you just literally, your mind is not even there. Your mind is more, like, I want to have fun, or I'm so excited about the day. I can't wait to meet these people.
Yeah.
When the thought is positive, it will show positivity.
Yeah.
A thought is negative, it will show negativity. It's just the way it is, right? So if you're thinking and you're having all this preoccupation, right? Again, it's fear of being rejected.
Yeah.
You have this fear of being rejected by the group of people you're with, then those questions will come from that fear,
Right.
which is the low energy you were talking about. If you have a fear of rejection because of the way you look, because of who you are, then your questions are going to be, are these people accepting me? Do these people even want me to be here?
Yeah.
Because that's the question that comes with the fear of rejection. Because if you have no fear of rejection, I bet you nobody's asking, are these people accepting me? I actually talked about this on my masterclass about the two people, right? Um, you're going to a conference. One person is thinking, this is going to be amazing. I can't wait to meet new people. I can't wait to get to talk to people and network. They're going to come in already with an energy of likely, like of liking, of they're going to be radiating positivity. Whereas this other person who is going to the conference is thinking, I don't want to go to this conference. I can't imagine. I have to do small talk with people. I hate networking. People are going to judge me. Like my clothes are old. This is from like, 10 years ago. They're going to notice as soon as I step in. Guess what? Whatever is happening is in their imagination, good or bad. They didn't happen yet, good or bad. But because of their perception, the idea of getting there, the anticipation of what is going to happen is going to translate
Yeah.
in their
They'll get it.
personality.
They'll get the experience that they want. They will. They absolutely will.
Yeah.
To take this another further, in order for me to kind of get over that, Mel Robbins has that let
Mm.
them theory. Love it.
The
It
book's amazing.
the book's amazing, by the way. Highly recommend it.
Not an ad, but there you go. It's
Not an
called
ad,
Let
but
Them.
totally amazing. And it is a simple theory, which is let them. Let them have whatever judgment they have or whatever opinion they have, whatever they're feeling. Let them have those emotions, okay? But let you handle it differently. And that was like, yeah, I'm going to handle this differently. What could have been a very difficult um, thing, like whether it be a conference, let's just say, oh my gosh, I have to, meet all of these people, or, I'm not really a people person or whatever it is. And then you go, all right, let them. Let them have whatever opinion they want about me. I'm just going to go there and have a good time. And this has been a huge game changer um, on many different fronts. But if we could take this to kind of redefining, because I know we were talking about, age and time and in the relation to this whole thing. Can we tie that together? Is there a way to tie this together so beautifully?
Tie what together? I'm sorry.
The perception, and let them, do whatever they have. And and tie that back to aging, tie that back to, you know, in relation with time, as far as aging, and a lot of when it comes to aging is a physical thing, right? Whatever people want to think is, let them think whatever they want to think, essentially, right? But when it comes to aging from a mental standpoint, when it comes to, let's just say, spiritual standpoint, because the physical obviously is what you could see, you know, when we're aging from a mental standpoint, like I have taken a stance and said, I feel chronologically, I don't feel the same spiritually, but there are other people who will feel older chronologically in spirit than they are in age, right?
That's
So
true.
there's this oldness. I'm too old. I'm too old to make any changes with myself. I'm too old to do anything fun. I'm too old to travel the world. There's always this too old thing that goes on. And I think that by using that dynamic that we fall into of the too old, whether it be that's something that you learn from a cultural or societal standpoint, I'm too old to do something, or if it's self. You had mentioned that, like your mother was like in her 40s and she's too old to do things, and we both know that we're at 40s, you're not too old to do anything. You can do absolutely everything at 40, same thing with 50, same thing with 60 and over. I really I find such beauty in aging now.
Mhm.
I want to just talk briefly about my grandmother, who is 95 years old. And
Oh,
this woman is absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
what's
Inside
her
and
name?
like I see her and I'm like, you just go I tell her right away. I'm like, hello, gorgeous. I mean, she's just beautiful.
Oh,
And
what's her name? Let's give her a shout out.
her name is Teresa. And she's
Teresa.
absolutely amazing. And what I find amazing is that she lived through such difficult times, right? She came through to World War II and came to our country when she was not even 20, she was 18. And uh, to have so much life and just to see her this age and to enjoy her presence is such a gift. So when I think about age in that respect, it gives me a different perspective on the rest of my family who are, getting up there in age as well. My
Mhm.
parents and my aunts, my uncles and such. And I look at them and I look at the beauty that they are and have gone through so much, each on an individual basis, but are just so rich with experience and love. And, each of them has their own way of dealing with things. And I appreciate all of that. So in that context of aging it's beautiful to take a look at the people around you and be appreciative of one, each of their own stories. Um, but just, if you're just talking physically, you're still here
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
beautiful
Oh, I
that is.
agree. And that's beautiful. Aw. Um, yeah, my grandma is in her 70s or 80s now. Let's see. She was born 1940. Yeah. So, um, she lives in Brazil. My other grandma passed a few years ago, and I never really met my grandfathers. So, but I want to go back to your question regarding let them and what we talked about earlier, which was really first you were talking about the perception that people have of yourself.
Mm.
And that can be very damaging already, right? Like that's a whole new like topic, right? That we can talk about. Um, but then there's also the perception of the person on themselves, because aging is really your perception
Yeah.
of yourself, right? If you are in a setting, in a social setting, yes, maybe you are comparing, maybe you are afraid of rejection. But at the end of the day, when it comes to aging, at least my perspective is that people have to deal with their own perception of themselves as they age.
Yeah.
And that's the most important part, right? It's not whether somebody's going to talk about it or whatever. It's really what they're telling themselves, because that can be damaging, right?
Fine.
uh, that conditioning, what you're telling yourself about it's not time, you're crazy for wanting more, or, like it's unrealistic, you're being selfish, you have to take care of your grandchildren now, whatever it is the situation, right? At this age, it's really what they're telling themselves, because they can be very judgmental about themselves. And people tend to be harsh when it comes to themselves more so than other people.
Great
They're
point.
harder on themselves than they are with other people. And so for Mel Robbins' book, let them do it, but it's really also allowing you to talk in allow your narratives, like I was talking earlier, to come out so that you really understand where the judgment is coming from. Like
Yes,
not being afraid of being vulnerable. I am thinking I'm too old. I am thinking time is over. I am thinking time is short. I am thinking I'm not capable of doing this at this age. But then debunking the idea or the myth that this can be the stop for you. Because we can't ignore our thoughts either. They're happening, right? But we can definitely question them,
definitely.
you know? So, yes, other people may talk about it, other people are going to see you a different way. But I think when it comes to timing and aging, it's all about what you're thinking. It's about all about yourself. What is it that you're telling yourself, you know? And that's the most important thing, to really be honest and vulnerable without any judgment. What are you telling yourself? I'm telling myself that I'm ugly now. I'm telling myself that I don't like what I see. I'm telling myself, you know what I mean? And be very vulnerable, because it's okay that those thoughts are coming up, but they don't have to be true.
I
That's when you
absolutely love
question
the
what's.
conditioning piece of this, that we're conditioned, or we could recondition ourselves. We were originally conditioned to think about ourselves in a certain way, and we are super, super judgmental of ourselves. Like you said, more than anyone else can be judgmental. We are our worst towards ourselves. And that's just human, that's just being human. But conditioning ourselves to treat ourselves differently, to look at ourselves from a very different perspective, and being, you know, for me, grateful for all of my quirks, all of my scars, all of my, beautiful parts, all of my ugly parts, all of it. And knowing that I will never be as young as I am right now.
I love that. It's true. This is the youngest
This is the
I'm
youngest we will
ever
ever
going to
be.
be. So I might as well go
So,
for it, right?
yeah, at this
Yeah.
moment, and that's why presence is huge and it's key.
Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful. So, what happens when people talk about perfect timing? What's your idea of the perfect timing? Does it exist?
I don't if there's any perfect timing. I hear a lot of people, even in my own experience, it was like, when do you get married? When do you have kids? When do you, so you have these perfect timing bubbles that you're supposed to go with. And um, I learned pretty early on there's never a perfect time for anything. There's, your experience, at least my experience is that whatever experience is coming to me, that's the timing. That's the right time. When something is coming to me for me to learn from, that's the right time to learn from it. And I needed to be more present and understand that the hard things, the good things, anything that's coming to me is meant for me to experience. And there is no really timing. I have this is not a good time for that. I'm not gonna, I can't, the universe is going to give you, source God's going to give you what it is that you're meant to learn from in the moment.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I used to not even understand the word perfect timing. I thought nothing happened in a perfect timing, that there was no such thing as perfect anything. But after learning meditation, learning the research by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and learning about a bigger universe and multiverse, at least that's my experience now, is that everything is happening in perfect timing.
Yes.
I went from like really not understanding to like really everything is happening in perfect timing, because otherwise it wouldn't happen in the first place.
Yeah.
It's so perfect how everything happens. And we don't understand the dimension of this universe. So for us, it might be a different time than we anticipated. It might be a different time than we expected,
Right.
but it is the perfect timing for us, right? It's just a matter of like understanding what's going on and why. So I ask a lot for like understanding. Like if it doesn't happen, I know it was the perfect timing for happening or for not happening. And so my ask is always like, thank you for this not happening now. Help me understand the perfect timing.
Oh, I love that. I also add to it within my meditations, whatever is for my highest and best good.
Mm,
Because we may think we want something, we may really, really think we want something that would be good and amazing, but you know, and if it doesn't happen, it really is for our highest and best good. Or if it does
yeah.
happen, it's for our highest and best good. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that as well. And, so what do you think like your message is for, the women over 40 that right now might be thinking, yes, I do have these thoughts about not being, good anymore or pretty anymore. Like, what's your message for them, for people that are in that place right now today?
you're not alone. You're not alone. You have a sisterhood. We all go through some version of this, and the support network is important. You need to have a support network around you of women. It may not even necessarily be women, but people who are supporting these changes as you go through them. Some of us are battling premenopause and menopause and postmenopause, issues. Some of us are struggling with empty nest, their children are leaving and just the transition of that. There's a lot that goes on during this period of time. So it isn't, our bodies are changing, our minds changing, there are situations are changing, and that you have support and you have my love and support as you go through this.
Oh, you know what I just remembered? Thank you for saying that. That was beautiful. I remembered on the last episode, we talked about fear. And if you haven't watched episode 2, I highly recommend because we're talking about, really how we turn fear into wisdom. But I did ask you a question at the end about if fear was not an obstacle, who would you be? And you did say a few words, and I said, but give me one adjective to like kind of,
Yeah.
embody the entire message of who Marina would be if fear was not an obstacle. Did you think of a word?
I did. I thought of a lot of words. There's a lot of words, but if I had to categorize like the one word would be inspirer.
Hmm. You sure inspire me. So yes.
Aw. As you inspire me.
That's beautiful. I know that off offline, we talked about this, and I was imagining a word for you. My word for you would be luminous. You have this beautiful light. I think it's very bright, and it attracts. It really magnetizes and radiates good energy, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Make me
It's
tear.
it's
That's lovely.
quiet but powerful.
Thank you. I love that. I'm actually going to write that down. Luminous. I enjoy your perspective on that. I really do. Because you don't really know how everyone else is perceiving you, you know. And to get that validation is it means a lot to me. So I appreciate that very, very much.
Yeah. Aw. No, I think it's important. I think, like, and you help people that really need the same thing, right?
Yeah,
Like you said, a sisterhood. You need to, like, it's important for you to show these women that they have the support that they need.
right.
For me, I think it would be more, like normalize it, like you said, you're not alone. But even more so, it's normal. It's normal to, for these thoughts to come up, but challenge them. They don't have to be true. Challenge your perception of beauty.
Yeah,
Your perception of beauty is very outdated,
very.
very outdated. Like the 1980s models are not the same as now, by the
I
way.
personally like the 1980s models, by the way.
So the perspective of beauty changed a lot, and so should yours. So if I were to speak to the women, 40 and plus, that's what I would say. Challenge those judgments in your mind. Challenge your idea of beauty, challenge your idea of not good enough or not ready. Challenge, those thoughts that come up when you think that you're too old, because there's so many people, like you said earlier, who have done things, who have started things early. Start looking for them. Start looking for confirmation that it is possible.
Yes.
Because especially now that we are in such a beautiful technology timing in our lives, where really, like, you can be inspired by anyone. I recently met, a lady who started doing nutritional vitamins, and she's in her 50s and she's doing amazing. She's like, I had a really hard time finding a way for me to become healthier at this age. And then when I find this combination of vitamins, I decided to do it for myself. And now I help other women do it because I want people to feel more revitalized and, just feel better about themselves at this age. So, if you think it's not possible, there are thousands of women at the age that you are doing the same thing that you're already thinking about. So go get inspired by them. It is possible. And maybe your reality is different than theirs, but, get clear on what you want. And like you said earlier, very early today, was start small.
Yeah.
People think they have to go from where they are now to where they see the woman, where they, on the internet. It's not going to be a 180,
Yeah,
but
it's
it all starts
dangerous.
with the 2%, right? 2% compounding, right? Start small. Like, what can you do today that changes it? And also about timing, because I remember you said, we talked about it and then we kind of deviated because there's so much to talk about. But we did talk about how some women say, oh, but I don't have time.
Yeah,
And it's very easy to get so busy with life and with everything that you have to do as a grown woman. You have all sorts of responsibilities, house responsibilities, marital responsibilities, or whatnot. And so you have all of these, responsibilities that you feel like you have no time. And so for that, I would say get organized, get a coach, to organize your time, because sometimes we say we don't have time because we're not counting the time. Because once you start counting the time and making it worth something, you're going to realize you have way more time than you think.
very,
It's
very
just that
true.
you're doing everything all at the same time. And so it feels like there is no time. When you get someone to help you with structure and help you see what are the times available in your day. I mean, we watch 3 hours of Netflix or whatnot at night and we don't even realize, you
Right.
know? So I know people have time. It's just what is their priority now and what do you want to be your priority later, right?
Exactly. And being able to be aware of when you're on social media and you're scrolling for the half an hour, there are certain times that you can pick out and choose something different, and it could be waking up a little earlier. I mean, it could be going to sleep a little later. Whatever it is, you could always maneuver your day to get in whatever it is that you need to get in order to make yourself feel better. So, and that doesn't mean that you could leave your schedule exactly the way it is, dealing with your responsibilities, wife, children, responsibilities, family responsibilities, work responsibilities, whatever those things are, finding and your time where you have that peace. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. It could be 10, 15 minutes to start. But starting small, starting in action, that there's a little piece that you're giving back to yourself will go a long way. I assure
Yes.
you. Go a long, long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's a point to be talking about here. And that's another thing, right? So there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough time in my life.
Right.
There's not enough time, right? So there is, like maybe you have to change the perception of what time is and how you're going to allocate that,
Yeah.
you know? And it's not about just doing. That's another perception. People think, oh, if I make time, it's going to be to add more to my plate.
Right.
And sometimes we're just going to add more time for you to rest.
Yes.
Or like you, right? Like, I'm just going to add time for you to breathe. How about
Time for
that?
you to rest, especially as you get older, becomes more and more important. Your body needs to heal more, and we need to center more in order to feel better. So it is important to schedule that time, um, sometime. I personally like to do it in the morning. Mornings are my time when I am intentional about my schedule. So, waking up, meditating in the morning, sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's half an hour, depending on the day. But knowing that that is what I need in order for me to set the day off right. Everyone's going to be different, but choosing that um, is something that you do as a non-negotiable every single day. And then you can set about your day like normal.
Hmm.
It just sets the tone for the rest of the day, at least for me. I know others, do different. Is there something that you do? Is there a ritual of yours?
I do. I'm very ritual based. I'm very routine. Absolutely. I do, my own. So I learned again from Dr. Joe Dispenza that when you wake up, you are in theta wave. I don't mean to get too technical, but it's really like a really brain wave where you're more susceptible to ideas. And so that's the time where you want to be thinking positive, be in gratitude, be in the energy of love. And so it's my time of being super grateful, imagining a beautiful day. And so I have these like, meditation, or I do a gratitude like out loud, things that I'm grateful for. And then I normally go to the gym 3 times a week. If I don't go to the gym, I normally do a walk in the morning. And then, eating well, I'm very mindful about what my breakfast is going to be. I'm normally very routine, eat the same thing every day. So yeah, those are very important to me, which is the first 3 steps of my day, which is moving, exercise, gratitude, and eating. Yeah, eating healthy.
And when you don't do it, how do you feel?
I always give myself grace for not doing it.
Yeah.
I accept myself just as I am.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah. So I think there is no pressure. Do I want to do it? I try to be really good about it because it really makes me feel better about the day. But if it doesn't happen, I know it will happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
There are things that
Setting
happens
that
that,
intention. You set the intention, right? You did um, what you wanted to do. But let's just say you don't, you're giving yourself grace. You are setting the intention for your time. And I guess that
yeah,
was what I was trying to, so you did it perfectly, which was like you set your own intention. And throughout the rest of your day, knowing that you have done something good for yourself um, sets the stage for you to stay in that practice.
yeah, 100%. But yeah, I mean, again, there are thoughts that are always going to come up, right? Like you don't need to do it today.
Of
You're
course.
tired today. Something's happening. It's raining outside, and you have all of these excuses. And that's normal, again, right? Like it's very normal. We all
Yeah,
think the same thing. We all want to write ourselves out of our responsibilities at all possible, but you know what's going to do to you. You know you're going to feel better about it. So if you can do it, do it. And if you have to miss it, miss it, but don't miss it for too long. It's
yeah.
good to have a routine that will make you feel better about your day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, this is great. I can't wait for the next one. I
Yeah.
think the next one is very interesting also. We're going to talk about relationships. So that's a little bit different. How do you
A
feel
little
about that?
different. And there's so much within that. We may have to do multiple ones about relationships, but yeah, we're gonna do that. That's great.
Yeah. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
And to you.
Um,
Elaine.
this was actually a really good topic about timing. It would be nice if, people have questions,
Yeah,
to write it on the comment just so that we know, if they have any other questions about timing and,
yeah.
aging, if there's anything that we missed, it would be good
I
for
would
us
love
to know.
that. Yes, and
Yeah.
we can address those in either future ones or right away. So I think I love that. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you. I'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.